Hello, welcome to Smileys. Tonight we're discussing Forge of Darkness, chapters 5 and 6. This is the discussion part. We are doing spoilers up to chapters 5 and 6 of Draconus. Spoilers, Miles and Book of the Fallen, and the Novels of the Empire, and basically any other series that we deem necessary. If you have not watched the other episodes, I don't know why you're here, but welcome nonetheless. I am Lee. I'm joined by Maura. Hello, Maura.
Hi. How are you?
I'm doing fairly good. How about you?
I'm okay. Do you think this is going to be a success today? Our recording?
This is what, the third time, fourth time? I've lost count at this point.
I know.
Just
Yeah. So just bear with us if we seem to be like skipping things or just rushing past things because we are so done. Right.
it's a good chapter, but like
I'm sorry, but it's
you can only discuss it so many times.
right. Okay. Shall I begin? Chapter 5?
Yeah, sure.
Please feel free to interrupt me. Feel free to bring in your thoughts, questions, because I understand everything that happens here. So if you have any doubts, you can feel free to ask me. Yeah. So right now we are at Barrett's Solitude, where Arathan is riding along with his father, his tutor, his border swords, and his gate sergeant. So as they're riding, he remembers his tutor's teachings, who has taught him that Barrett's Solitude used to be a sea once, and it has taken like nearly 1,000 years to dry up, and it's just a plain, just a plain now. And so as he's riding, somehow Arathan starts thinking that he can almost imagine there is water underneath him, and so I don't know. Again and again, this imagery of water keeps coming up with Arathan. Yes, Lee. Yes, we have spoken all this before, so just bear with me.
No, yeah, go on.
Yeah. And as he's riding away, for the first time he's leaving home, so he can almost feel a new sort of freedom. He can feel his thoughts rising through the air, unknown to others, and it's a precious, secret kind of freedom that he's facing now. And he knows that if he says these things to his tutor Sagander, he is not going to understand concepts like that, because just like he knows that there are different kinds of freedom, there are also different kinds of prisons, right? Prisons that stifle your thoughts, stifle your words, etc. And he thinks these are like gray walls, surrounding you. These are the types of prisons he's been seeing. And as he's riding, he's pretty exhausted. He's wearing this heavy armor for the first time. He's wearing a helm. He's sweaty. He's riding a horse, and all that. But he's still quite happy because it's a new kind of freedom now, right? So as he's thinking all these things, let's cut to the morning. We don't get many of these flashback scenes, isn't it? This is one of the few flashback scenes we get. Like, thinks the day is begun. No, is this very common? I don't think it's very common.
I wouldn't say very common, but I can think of at least a few scenes more like this.
I can only think of one. Siege of Baal. Oh, there are a few, and I think Reaper's Gale and Bone Hunters. Like the army is already marching, and then they think back to how they devoted and all those things. Yeah.
Well, there's one later in this book too. So.
Oh.
Yeah, it happens a lot more here. This happens a lot more here in like Draconus. So.
Because everyone has lots of thinking to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to be clear, we still love the book. We are just being snarky about it, but
yeah.
Right. So that morning, when they were getting ready and they were about to leave, we see Arathan is quite sleepy and he's feeling cold. He misses his bed, and the whole yard is like packed and jumbled, and everyone is running here and there, getting ready for this long trip. And Sagander is sort of panicking because he finally realized that there are no pack horses. So he had packed a lot of trunks, I believe, which he can no longer carry. And so he shouts at Arathan to please come and help him find a place to keep his scales and weights and all that, right? And Arathan has actually chosen his gelding horse, not the war horse. I don't know why. He has chosen Besra. And so he had already packed everything on Besra, but he takes the scales and weights which Sagander wants him to take. And he's slowly unpacking and repacking stuff. And all of a sudden the yard goes quiet. Because, return to the yard, Draconus. So he comes and he says, "What are you doing?" And he takes away the scale and like hands it out to this to his side, and the servant comes and takes it away. This is an important symbolic scene, in case you didn't notice, because I think we can discuss this more, but I feel like it just clearly shows that there is somewhere the scales are falling away from his eyes. He's no longer being. I believe you use the word balanced.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And one of the border swords, I think Galak notices, and he even says that he felt like
An
some
omen.
shiver,
Yeah.
an omen, like the abyss shivered or something. So right. So all Arathan has are weights. He's carrying literal weights from his house, which are of no use to anyone except make his pack heavy. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's important.
Symbolism.
Oh, we should have an overlay like that, right? That each time we bring up symbolism or something. Right. Okay, so as they're leaving, he sees that his three half sisters have come wearing black to say bye. And and once they leave, once they leave outside, Sagander makes him stop and makes him. I don't know why he does this. He makes him look back and say, "This was your whole world till today, and now." I think you have an answer for why he does these things, but it's okay. We all know it.
He's projecting. He's a. Well, yeah, he is.
He is. Yeah.
He is.
Okay, this is not okay. I'll not. No more observations.
Yeah.
I'm just doing a summary.
Yeah,
Right.
sorry.
So he makes him stop and says that this has been your world until today, and from now on you have to make your own path in the world. And see, even your sisters don't like you. Nobody likes you. You're a very unlikable guy, and your father forced them to come and say goodbye. So they made sure they came in black so that you see that they're wearing black. And in so many ways, Kural Galen is different, but black as a symbol of mourning or something is it's very our world thing, or rather, Western world thing. So then he asks Sarathan, "What is your? Do you pack the gifts? Do you think the gifts are worthy for the Lord of Hate?" And Arathan says, "Snarky dude." He says that is for the Lord to decide, not me. Again, Sagander gets angry and says, this is, I'm still your tutor and I'll be your tutor for now and all that. Then they pass this site where Arathan almost drowned at age 9. And he seems to remember this place. All he remembers is that this is a trail at the end of which cattle are taken and slaughtered. And Sagander says something like, I'm surprised that you remember it. And we sort of speculated that maybe Sagander was feeling guilty about it, or maybe he had a hand in it. We don't know, and I don't think we ever find out. So anyway, they're passing the plains, and there is some eco-conservation observations, like there is lots of deforestation, and he wonders like what happened to all these missing trees. Maybe a whole city could have been built, and maybe they did build a city. So right, so by noon they take a break. They almost reach the edge of Dracon's lands, and so they take a break, and this is where we begin all these strange, super weird rituals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first meal is something that has to be cooked. After that, they're not going to cook during the day, and the first meal has to be shared with everyone. And there is a whole bunch of these. So anyway, they stop. But I don't know. Maybe they serve a purpose in like bringing out the characters, because unless these things happen, we don't get to interact with them, right? It's going to be just routine. They stopped. They hunted a rabbit. They skinned it, and they kept going. It would have been something boring like that. This is I don't know. It at least breaks up the monotony. Yeah.
Yeah, among other things. I think it serves like an in-world purpose, not just, obviously it fleshes out the characters you say, but I think such rituals actually do serve an in-world purpose, because I think they bring it up in the book that like the first day is when most injuries occur because you need to like stretch out and your
No.
horses and all that. No?
That's not what I'm asking. Why does it have to be a specific cooked meal and not on the other days? Why do they have to have like hot food on the first day? That doesn't serve a purpose. Taking a break, taking a long break, and all that is fine.
I mean, they do cook
yeah.
food. They do cook like stews and stuff. This is
That's
more.
only dinner time. Lunchtime they don't cook. That's what they say. During the day we're not going
because
to have.
they walk, because staying somewhere to
They
cook
ride.
things takes time, right? So, but they have to
Yeah.
ride during the day.
No, that's what,
So
as Feren says later in this chapter, that traditions generally get,
yes,
they get misinterpreted because people lose the meaning and keep only the ritual. So I'm sure this is something like that. Maybe they thought instead of telling everyone to just sit around, take a break, maybe they said if we can cook, we can grab everyone for 20 minutes and make them, relax.
yeah,
Maybe,
I guess.
I guess, yeah. Okay, so we solved the mystery of one ritual.
Yep,
Let's see the others. So,
we
right,
have
so
no
they
idea.
stop. Huh? Sorry.
We have no idea about the others. This is
Oh,
just
there is one. Yeah, there is one right away because they stop and Draconus has to go first, feed his horse first, and share water with his horse only, not with his other the lesser horses. He only has to share with the war horse, and Arathan is he doesn't like it. He thinks that because he rode Besra the whole day, he has to share with Besra. Raskan
hmm
stops him, and Draconus supports it, says that you can take the war horse. The boy has to awaken to his responsibilities. So this is what happens. This ritual, I don't have it.
yeah.
What?
I
What?
think it's just it's Feren. This is like the fifth time I make this mistake, and this is gonna happen consistently. Feren, not Fenner.
Yeah.
Feren, as you said, mentioned later that the rituals exist for a reason, but Curled Galen is a very classist society, borderline casteist. There's like strictly defined hierarchies. So of course you're not gonna share your goods with the lesser horses and only your war horse with which you go into battle. Because you do need to kind of have its loyalty to be with you when you actually ride into battle. But for such trips, what use is it? Not particularly. So it's just the tradition has stuck around because it reinforces classist values, which are omnipresent
Yes.
throughout Curled Galen. I love it. It's so good to read as a modern reader. It
Yeah.
hurts so much, and I'm going to be so angry later. Believe me, but we're gonna get there.
I mean, even horses have gas. So
See?
do we need to even? Okay. Okay. Right. So then, when this meal is happening, Draconus takes Feren away to a private chat, and Raskan is he takes his time to scold Arathan, saying, I'm embarrassed for you or something and all. And then Narathan says, I chose the wrong horse in the morning. That was my mistake. But, we have to honor every beast that serves us. And Raskan gets super offended and he says, what is this nonsense you're talking? Is this, is this Sagander's fault? Like in any world, would Sagander say something like honor every beast that serves you? No, but Raskan is angry with the tutor, and then Narathan says, "No, that is my own thought." And then he says, "If these are your thoughts, just keep them to yourself, because you're not the one to challenge Tiste ways." Who is the one to challenge Tiste ways?
His father.
Yeah, the drag. Right.
So before you go on, I do kind of want to mention, because I brought this up just now, that there is a parallel between the legions in Curled Galen, the Curl legions and the Hust legion, about who gets, who is noble born, who is more
Yeah.
important, who gets all the praise. But we must honor all the beasts that served under us, except no, we don't. We have to cast them aside because they're lesser somehow. Symbolism. Anyway, please carry on.
I am not doing this editing. Sorry. You can just imagine these things.
Just picture like there's a big like rainbow here as I move my hands.
No,
Just like
no.
symbolism. Just pretend it's there. Please carry on.
Yeah. Okay, so right, and then this is when Arathan sees, he notices the horses of the border swords. They are not hobbled, or they are not tied up or anything. They're just standing there, just proudly. They're just standing still, and he thinks first you need to have pride. After pride, you can have disdain. So he needs to develop pride, and then he can disdain probably his father. This whole thing is like a hate fest for his father, right? So next, the border swords who are left behind, Rint and Will and all those, they start wondering what does Draconus want to do with Feren. I mean, beyond the obvious. So, and the Rint says, what? And the Rint says that Feren has her own mind, and it's her decision whether she wants to choose or not. And whichever way she chooses, we are all going to support her. And everyone is like, yeah, obviously we're going to support her. She's a border sword. And then Will wonders what exactly is a concert. Oh, you knew this was coming up, right? And he calls them crossed boys, which is somehow worse than a priestess, which which is so strange. That whole society is they're so messed up, and then they are so judgmental and so weird. Right? Rint doesn't like talk like this, and then this is when Galak brings up that he saw Draconus holding out the scales and all that. This is when that talk comes up. Anyway, the meal is ready. Rint tells Raskan that let's eat, and then Sagander wants to know why exactly did they stop now, because they just started riding. They could have ridden a quite a long distance, and then this is when they say, no, the first day you have to start slow, loosen up your joints, etc. And even though we discussed this before, I think this is a meta way of saying that the book is going to start slow. We have to loosen up our joints, settle into the ride. Even though we might be experienced, we might know all these things, we still have to, settle in. And most of the injuries take place on the first day. You know that? So I believe that should be part one of Forge of Darkness. So anyway, then they're discussing the routes they can take because they want it to be secretive. They are going to ride around Abara Delak. They're not going to ride through it. And then, Raskan asks that, we're all a small group, so let's just socialize with each other, let's mingle, let's chit chat. And Rint sees that his sister returns, and this is one of the few good sibling relations we see, because she just shakes her head, and then he feels quite angry, and then they all start bantering. Will says that uh, how can we socialize with these guys? One is an old man, and one is a rabbit in a boy's skin, and he seems very proud of this expression that he called Arathan a rabbit in a boy's skin. Then Feren actually at this point comes to Arathan's defense, and she says that uh, they're they're continuing traditions without understanding the reasons for them, and what that boy did was right. He gave thanks to the beast that served him. Will says, no, you have to give thanks to the beast that you're going to ride into battle with. And she says, why not give thanks to all of them? Rint sees that his sister has this fire, which he has not seen in years. Usually he would have welcomed it, he would have been happy, but he doesn't know what has caused this, outburst, and so he's quite uneasy. Right. So at this point, Arathan is sitting apart, looking away, and Feren starts her thing. She goes and introduces herself, and she invites him to share the meal, and explains all these things. It's pretty. I don't know if I know that you thought it was all fine, but yeah, it did not sit well with me, because she started making her moves, and she even tells him that you did the right thing with the horse and all that. And then
He did.
she asks, yeah, right. And then she asks him if there are, things that are expected from you and things that your heart wants, what would you choose? And he says, I'm just a bastard son. And then she says, if you're a bastard, then it's your father's failing. It's not, he's not acknowledged you. It's not your fault. What?
Gasp.
I think you should say audible gasp.
Yeah. Audible gasp.
Right. So obviously, with all this attention, he feels confused, frightened, and maybe aroused. We wouldn't put it past him. So they share this meal. They eat. This is a small diversion. I don't know why we need this, but they eat meat, bread, and lard. And Raskan tells them that during the Jalarkan campaigns, they almost died because of the cold. Rint says that's because they were eating too many carbs and proteins, but it is fat which is needed, because fat protects you from cold. And then he asks, did they succeed in the battle when they were chasing the Jalarkan? And Raskan says no, they returned within 1 day because it was too cold for them. Right. So moving on. Draconus is not part of these conversations, and Arathan wonders why anyone even likes him. How can he command loyalty when he's, not even like mingling with people and being friendly or whatever? Only that all he knows about his father is that he fought very well, he wore his armor well, and he had a very plain sword. Maybe that's important that he had a plain sword. Who knows? So anyway, they resume the journey. Do you have any thoughts? I need a drink.
Not particularly. It's just we rehash the point about the Tiste being rather woefully unprepared for fighting in any capacity. which
Yeah.
and now they're careening off the Civil War. Wonder how well that'll go. But yeah, beyond that, I don't think there's much to say here, except
Thank
that
you.
Arathan is 17, so
Keep
cut the guy some
remembering
slack,
Arathan is
please.
17 whenever Feren comes up. Keep remembering that age.
Feren's about 40, just FYI.
Yeah. Twice his age. Yeah. Right. So they resume the journey, and then Arathan sees that Feren has come again to help him climb his horse, and she says that this beast has accepted you as master because it thinks he's riding Hela right now, not Vesra, his war horse, and she says that she thinks that you're going to protect her from Calaris. Do you want to put a rainbow symbol here? You want to call it symbolism again?
Symbolism.
I wish we were drinking today. We could have had shots. Right.
Yeah.
And then he asks,
God, I'll
he
be dead
asks,
within 30 minutes.
okay, so obviously Arathan is quite confused, but he's outspoken. So he asks her, did my father order you to be nice to me? And she says, none of this is by his order. But then he's still curious. He wants to know, did they discuss him at all? She changes the subject and puts him on the saddle and walks away. She's so disgusting, right? My first time I liked her so much, then, but this time I'm able to see all this, the way she's been manipulating him, sort of, right? Now, Arathan, as they're riding, he's quite mad at his father, who seems to be micromanaging everything around him. And then Sagander calls him and tells him that, stay away from the filthy border swords because they might have lice. And then he starts his next big lesson about
Humility? Weakness?
weakness and
Humility is a
desire.
word that it is literally, allergic.
I don't
Sagander's
think
allergic to humility.
No, I don't think Tiste have a word for that. They might not have a word. So
Maybe.
anyway, he starts talking about weakness and desire. The TLDR is that if you're weak, it's your own fault because you're choosing to be weak, and that is a disease of the spirit. And anyone who is not weak, who has power and wealth, automatically they are superior in every way. Are you listening, Lee?
Yeah.
I will not accept a wandering mind. I love the dialogue so much when Sagander tells Arathan, because obviously he is doubting all this, and then he says, I will not accept a wandering mind. So anyway, did you have anything to say? Did I interrupt you? No?
No, basically, in classic Tiste fashion, Sagander has some somewhat decent ideas that he just confounds with like a whole bunch of horse crap.
He doesn't have a single decent idea. No.
I mean, he does bring up some interesting points about weakness, and
When it comes up, let me know. But so far, no.
Like he conflates it with it being an inherent weakness of the spirit, but like discipline being a way to like it's complicated, right? And he blows it to hell. And it's just weird.
Saying that weak people are weak has been the way of oppressors throughout history. This is I can only talk about my caste system here, and this is the accepted belief that if you are in the lower caste or if you are untouchable, it's entirely your fault. There has been something wrong with you, and that is why you ended up in that caste.
Right.
You there?
So what he does say that interests me is
okay.
He says something along the lines of you will not accept a wandering mind.
Yeah, okay. No, you're looking up something.
So, yeah. So each of us in our lives must fight that battle against desire. Indeed, every struggle that you may perceive is but a facet of that conflict. There are pure desires and there are impure desires. The pure desires give strength to discipline. The impure desires give strength to weakness. So there is something interesting with that, except it bears on the definition of what constitutes a pure and an impure desire, which in Sagander's mind is anything he doesn't like. And this has also been brought up in like religious texts, especially in the church, sins and virtues. But the underlying concept of strength of character, making one better, and discipline being attainable rather than inherent or innate is, well, it's an interesting concept that's more explicitly explored in Stoicism, But Sagander here takes it to this logical extreme of, if you're weak, it's your fault. You're at fault. There's nothing you can do about it. And if you actually could be better, you would be better. So really, you're the one at fault here, which, no one's saying that. Actually, that's a problem. Someone is saying that. The other problem I have with this is that this is not extreme by Tiste standards. This is like the accepted norm. This is normal, which is just fuck.
Well, that's how these things happen, right? The entire society has to accept that this is the standard. That's the only way people can continue to oppress others. This is the only way. Anytime Erickson does a binary, like pure and impure, strength and weakness, and anytime he does that, it has to be from an unlikable guy. He always does it. He doesn't like binaries. He always tries to smudge the lines. So this is fun because as soon as he mentions pure and impure desires, Arathan has this doubt. He asks all the people who cut down these forests here, they had a pure desire, right? They wanted to build their city. But they ended up destroying the forest, which is not a good outcome. So does it mean their strength is not really strength? Right? So Sagander has a very good answer for this. Any idea?
He doesn't stop thinking about such thoughts because he's confused and he's destroying it. Yeah.
Yeah, he says something like, if you have discipline, you'll be certain of your answers and you'll not be asking questions like this. And, that's because you're weak of spirit. And so, because, you're born from an improper union. And Arathan asks, if this was his father's weakness. And Sagander has another answer for this. He
just to backhand him across the face.
Sorry, it's a young boy getting beaten. I'm sorry, we shouldn't be laughing. So anyway, he slaps him, like he usually does. But the difference is that he's wearing a heavy helm now. So it nearly breaks his neck. He gets a concussion. And because he's riding the war horse, what happens is Heller goes into action. She immediately kicks the horse, breaks the horse's legs, breaks Sagander's leg, and is about to crush his head. Arathan is still in a daze, but he draws the reins and stops Sagander from getting killed. And, he sort of just notices what is going on around him. They come, all the others come back. They mercy kill the horse. And then, they suggest amputation and all that. I don't know. At some point, Arathan also passes out, but he keeps calling himself weak. He feels guilty about this. And who is taking care of him? Rint, Will, Galak? One of them. Hopefully one of them is taking care of him. And then Sagander passes out. They tie a tourniquet and, then Draconus takes Rint away because he was the only eyewitness who heard what happened, who knows what happened. Okay, cut to later in the day when, they have plenty of horse meat now, so they're cooking horse. And Will and Rint are having a chat. And, one of them says that so much has happened on the first day, so maybe this is not a good omen. This journey is not a good one. So right now they have changed the plan. Galak and Will are going to take the tutor to Abara Dalak, leave him with the monks, and then they will catch up later. And Rint is asked, why spare the tutor at all? Why not just kill him here and move on? But Rint says, Draconus noticed how hard these guys worked to save Sagander, save his life. So someone has to recognize their work, right? Someone has to witness what they've done. So that's why he's saving him and not just leaving him by the wayside. So Feren comes and says that the boy is just sleeping now. Will calls, he says something like, I've never seen you mother anyone before. And then she says, he still won't see her being a mother. Yes, thankfully. So right now, this is the border swords. A little distance away, we have Raskan and Draconus also sitting with a meal. And Draconus says that now Hellar has actually bonded with Arathan so soon. So he was wrong to take her away. No? Okay. Right. So no, I thought you would come up with another symbolism thing. No.
No. I didn't actually catch the symbols that time, so I don't know what the symbol is here.
It's always about the war horse is a stand-in for Feren, Calaris is a stand-in for Draconus, and Arathan is what I keep thinking, because Heller should not be separated from Arathan is what Draconus realizes now. Maybe something like that. So Raskan thinks that the tutor behaved pretty badly, and Draconus is too generous to his I think I've told this before that Galan might not be entirely neutral regarding Draconus, even though he says he's not in favor of Anomander. He seems to have some sort of I don't know. Would you call it a crush on Draconus? Sort of. I don't know. He's entirely smitten by Draconus. Each time Draconus comes up, it's always in extremely flattering terms. So anyway, Draconus says things like the tutor is no longer young, so he has aches in his soul, which has mingled with the aches in his body. So it's understandable that he hit him or something. And Draconus thinks that he's forgiving Sagander. Oh, sorry, Raskan thinks that he's forgiving Sagander, and Draconus tells him no, nobody's talking about forgiveness. And even this, that Raskan talking back to Draconus is like a huge thing. He thinks that anyone else, any other nobleborn would have beaten him for it. But Draconus is such a nice man. He did not beat him. And he said, no, it's okay. You just spoke from your heart, so it's fine. Yeah, Tiste. Why don't... If there's one society that needs a civil war, it's this one. Okay. And then Raskan feels, he's very impressed and all that. And then Draconus sees, he sees everyone as equal. From the lowliest servant to everybody, he treats them all equally. In fact, to reiterate this point, Draconus even gives him his pair of moccasins to Raskan because his boots are getting worn down. And obviously, nobody can fill Draconus's large shoes. So he's going to stuff it with grass and use it. Right. And then Raskan hesitates and he says, I don't want to accept this and all. And then Draconus says something like, would you refuse your lord's generosity or something? Okay, it's been half an hour and we still have like quarter chapter left.
It's fine.
Then, yeah, it's fine. I mean, so many things are happening and so many more things are going to happen now. Except this huge, this thing about Draconus talking about the night sky, which is sort of not very interesting. He says something like the swirl of stars, they mark the plunge of light into darkness. Each star is a world of its own, and they all swirl a path towards a center where there is death of light and death of time. And Raskan is shaken by concepts like this and says, Draconus says that the Tiste have become comfortable with ignorance and the scholars are petty and cooped up. And then he says something like, just before, we saw Sagander saying something like, discipline is armor and sword both. And Draconus says knowledge is armor and sword because it can protect and isolate. It can also swing, but it can also cut the wielder, right? So Raskan feels like me, this conversation has left him behind. And then Draconus, once again, a gentleman says, I'm sorry, I have embarrassed you, but don't let titles like poet and scholar and all that intimidate you. Nobody's better than you. Because, in a world of facades, the grins are equally wretched, right? Who grins? Grins of fear, not grins of happiness. And Raskan asks, do most people live in fear most of the time? Do you have the quote or do you want me to say it? Fear
Go
that
ahead.
that our opinions might be challenged, fear that our way of seeing things might be called ignorant, self serving, or indeed evil. Fear for our persons, fear for our future, our fate, our moment of death, fear of failing in all that we set out to achieve, fear of being forgotten. Yeah?
Yep.
So he even says something like, there can be some moments of joy and pleasure and all that, but fear is the constant. And then he asks if Raskan feared darkness as a child and says, yeah, everyone feared darkness as a child because we think it's a big unknown. And then Draconus suddenly observes that Mother Dark has chosen to cover herself in darkness. And he wonders if she even remembers her own childhood. Why are you laughing for that? So the soup is almost cool, and then they split up for dinner. And then now we reach that scene where Arathan wakes up in the middle, finds Feren is sharing his blanket. So what does he do? He tries to distract himself thinking of things like the age of gifts when the first Tiste lived. It is said in their legend that when the first Tiste lived, there was harmony and peace everywhere. Right? There was no light at all, and the stars were a thinning of darkness. And then Arathan wonders if darkness is a veil like that, then what lies beyond it? But he's also been told that light came as an invasion, born when discord first arrived to the heart of the Tiste. He wonders if there was so much peace, then how did discord arise in the first place? And you know what answer he was told? He was told that the soul has chaos, and only discipline can control this chaos. And the first Tiste had grown complacent about the gift, and this is why they succumbed to chaos. And it is their burning souls actually that you see as stars. Also, he would
That's
have gone
got
on.
dark. Holy shit.
You did?
That just got dark. Like, really dark.
Oh, right. So, but yeah, don't worry. We don't stay in the darkness for long because Feren is there. And then she takes his virginity and then teaches him stuff like, there are two sides to lovemaking and all that. And scene ends with him thanking her. And because it's an open camp, Rint is not too far away. He knows what's happening. He was told that when she had told him that Draconus had only requested that she teach things to the boy. He doesn't like it. He disapproves all this, but Feren does, she ignores it. He wants her to like leave all these learning games to the court force, all these sordid games. Let these highborns play these games. Why don't we're just border swords. So he's quite angry at Draconus. He can't treat Feren like that because he knows that if Feren got pregnant, she's not going to ask for child support. And he thinks that Draconus chose her because of that. But yeah, if she got pregnant, he knows that she's going to disappear and she's going to raise the child well. And then Rint would support her no matter what. Yeah. So thank God we're done with this night. The next morning, Sagander wakes up and he's told that, there is no gentle breaking bad news or anything. He's just told, you lost your leg and I'm leaving you alive because, because of reasons. Anyway, Sagander tries to defend himself, saying that he was only defending Draconus's honor. And because the boy said that he was Draconus's weakness. And Draconus tells him that he doesn't need anyone to defend his honor. Yeah.
Because
And
he's
then he
Draconus,
even,
motherfucker.
no, it reminds me of that line from Hamilton. My honor needs no defending or something. I think Washington says that.
Yeah.
So anyway, he says, I don't need anyone to defend my honor. And then he's actually quite impressed with Arathan's observation that he is Draconus's weakness. And for this, he can actually respect his son. Finally, he has proved himself as his son, and so he can respect him. And because of this, he's going to allow Sagander to live. Okay, and then he scolds
And
Sagander
he will
and
not devour his soul with peals of laughter. No, instead he'll make some tea.
yeah, and he said, "I'll exile you." That's what he means basically. He just ends up exiling him, and it's a bit too little, too late, isn't it? After all these years and years of damage, he finally realizes that Sagander has been filling the boy's head with nonsense, and after all the damage is done, he's gone. So anyway, I've written in my notes. Magnanimous Draconus says that he will spare the tutor's life, but he faces exile from his lands. So after this, Sagander thinks that he would rather die. He only struck a bastard son. It was not even a highborn boy or anything. So he feels indignant. What would he say? That he's indignant for a second. Doesn't matter. Moving on. And then he knows that he's not going to feel this fire for long, but he's going to find a path to vengeance against Arathan first, and then Draconus. I think you had a nice quote for that. No? Okay, doesn't matter. Something like, I will skin them and flay them or display their something. You said it during one of the times we recorded this.
I think that's like what Draconus says he'll do to Sagander, if he ever talks shit again.
Okay. Yeah, and then
Hence,
he thinks it
magnanimous.
back.
He will only exile him rather than,
Yeah.
skin him alive and then, I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, it doesn't matter. So anyway, by this time, Raskan comes back with blood broth, and Sagander asks if the boy is okay. And his closing thought is, I should have swung harder. Yeah. So finally, Arathan wakes up and, It's a big day for him. He has all these big feelings. And Tiste is, they're quite advanced in all these things, including ignorance. So they don't have any sex education. And he thinks that is Feren going to be pregnant right away? Is she like, her belly is going to start swelling up today or something? And then he sees that a tutor is missing and two border swords are also missing. He thinks that, maybe he's dead and they're gone to bury him or something. And then he's told the truth, right? He takes a leak and he sees the amputated leg of Sagander lying in the filth. Yeah. Right. And this morning, when handing him breakfast, Feren is cool towards him. Okay, she doesn't like greet him warmly or anything. And he thinks that he has disappointed her. And immediately after, what do we see? We see Raskan telling Arathan that you're going to ride Besra today and you're going to ignore Heller for half a day at least, so that let her wonder if she has failed you. Would you call manipulation? I would
Go
call
on,
this just
yeah.
manipulation. Yeah. And then later in the day, he said, and then later in the day, he has to go and, start love bombing Heller and say, be nice to her and all that. And then this will make the bond stronger. So, yeah. And then Draconus says, Arathan, come ride with me. And so they start riding. Arathan doesn't even have an armor with him because he's still recovering from a concussion. And then they start riding. Draconus says he spared Sagander's life twice. Arathan saved Sagander's life twice. Once by pulling back Heller, and the second time because he asked all these questions and gave something for his father to respect him, and because of that he spared Sagander, which makes like zero sense to me. And anyway, Arathan wonders. Draconus explains that if you have been wondering whether you're your father's weakness, there is no dishonor in such a question. So if Arathan has ever wondered if he was his father's weakness, then there is no dishonor in asking such a question, because after all, the matter concerns his life, and he has a right to wonder about his place in the world. And then he says, I'm quite impressed with you, but just stop biting your nails. And then he also goes on to say, immediately, as you say, he immediately has to like make the scene nasty and says that women might appreciate soft fingers like this. And immediately Arathan becomes quite isolated again. He says he feels that everyone belongs to his father, and everyone is an extension of his father's will, and he is just playing along. Then they say that Draconus says that you are that if he had continued to live at the keep, he would have been vulnerable. His half sisters are fine because their mother's family is quite powerful. Then Arathan asks, why didn't you just kill me as a child? And he says that a dead Arathan is of no use to anyone. Even a kidnapped Arathan is useless. What they would want, what his enemies would want, is to make Arathan hate him and all that, right? Feeding
Which
his
is
anger.
not very
and
difficult, apparently.
But then Arathan immediately says, I have no ambitions. And Draconus says, that's today, but things can change in future. And then he goes on to say that I understand that you have no cause to love me or feel any loyalty. And Arathan hits back with the mic drop line. He says, I did not know, sir. What? And he says that love needs a cause. And for some reason, finally, Draconus shuts up and and the journey goes on. So anyway, they again stop to camp somewhere. They're filling water. Rint is moody. Feren is moody. Arathan is also moody. Everyone is having a shit day, right? Obviously. And then beyond the stream where they've stopped, Draconus is climbing a slope and looking west. Rint doesn't like this place because he prefers the Jagged to Azathanai, because at least the Jagged had the decency to beat back Jalek from their expansions, whereas the Azathanai just laughed whenever the Jalek attacked, right? Because they don't care about houses, they don't care about their material things, and they actually mean it. In fact, they say things like, wealth is a false measure, honor cannot be hoarded, there is no courage in gold, etc., etc. Rint has heard all these words before, and he also noticed that the Azathanai are not hypocrites. So anyway, Feren and Rint also they briefly discuss Arathan, and this is when we find out that she has lost a son years ago who would have been Arathan's age now, and she also blames the father who died by suicide. And then they have some bickering, and then she tells him that you have this imaginary perfect sister in your head, and that's not me or something. So anyway,
One sec.
for the last bit, we have the only warrior Azathanai, who is called the Protector, who is a Tel Akai half-blood, and who is made to kill Mandarus, called, come on, Grisenfall. And he comes up saying something like, I think this at least it's your favorite. Go on.
Okay. So Grisenfall comes along and goes something along the lines of Draconus, I brought ale, or something like that.
Yeah.
Probably not in that voice though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's in that exact voice.
Yeah, no doubt.
So anyway, he comes to them as a man who has nothing to fear, who has nothing to lose. He exudes pleasure. He encourages amusement. His company is like a warm embrace. So many good things about him. And then he starts introducing himself to everyone. So when he shakes Arathan's forearm, he says that you have a sword wielder's arm, and he calls him an inconvenient son lost to a grieving mother. And he wonders, is this the hand that is going to backstab Draconus one day? And Arathan again repeats that I have no ambitions. And if others do, they'll never find him because he intends to live in hiding forever. Then Grison asks Draconus if darkness is a weapon, and if it's a weapon, against whom is it intended to strike? And this is the answer he wants to find, and that's why he is going to Karkanas. And then to Feren, he gives an even longer introduction. He says that he is a warrior who misses every fight, who sleeps through every battle, who smiles at challenges, and blah, blah, blah. And then he warns her that she is too young to have lost hope. Her voice holds a tragic tale of loss, and so, if he can hear the pain. Anyway, after this, there is some singing and there's some drinking. Arathan passes out immediately and he wakes up with a hangover. And he sees that the next day Grison has left them. But everyone seems to be happy because Grisenfall had come among them and left, but he had taken something away with him. And after this, Draconus and Arathan have a chat, and he wants to know why did this Azathanai call you friend? And Draconus says, no, he just calls everyone that. And they keep riding. And Arathan's thoughts again come back to the beginning of the chapter, where he thinks about, types of freedom, types of prisons, and again something about water. So, and then he feels wonder at the Azathanai. And more than any of these things, he has found out that his mother lives, right? Because of what Grisenfall has told him. And if she grieves him, then that means he is still loved by someone. So he wants to find his mother, he wants to steal her and find a place to hide so that there will be peace. There will be peace. Right. So because this has gone on too long, I think we might just split this into 2 episodes. Is that okay? This is just super long.
It's a long chapter, yeah.
Yeah. So see you in the next one, chapter 6, which is going to be hopefully just Lee talking and not me. See you then. Bye.
Bye.
So welcome back. Yeah. Go on.
Sorry. I didn't notice you were okay.
Doesn't matter. Okay. So welcome to Smileys or welcome back to Smileys, because we are just going on with chapter 6 of Forge of Darkness by Steven Erikson as part of a read along. And this is the summary episode where Lee is going to summarize entire chapter 6 for us in 20 minutes or less. Is that the time you're going to take?
Okay. No, I guess. No, that's not happening.
No.
But yeah.
Maybe we should address something for a second because, this is not the way you looked the last episode we recorded.
Yeah.
And you look somewhat different now. I think we should just acknowledge it and keep moving on. Let's go.
So
what happens in chapter 6?
So, first and foremost, we are in Hosthold, within the great bellowing forges of Hosthold. The master of the forge and progenitor of the Hast family, Hast Henrold, proclaims that one day he shall be a child again before a startled, if slightly drunk, Kilaris. For Smith, Henrold is actually quite articulate, and his words confuse the captain. He speaks of childhood, but the word that catches Kilaris' attention is weapons, for that is the reason he's here. He seeks a weapon from the Hast forges for his lord, Anamander. To snap Henrold out of his turn for the poetic, Kilaris raises that issue to his lord. Anamander's commission isn't political, Trust me, bro. And the captain calls upon the honor of tradition instead. And Amanda wishes for a silent blade, which is not enough for a husk blade, and one to be a blade of truth in silent concord with its wielder. We know of like two such blades, one being Quinaris and the other being Spinox, right?
The pre-awakening
They're both
blades.
pre-awakening, yeah. So Henrold takes a bit oddly to this, because while Anamander is purportedly aware of the secret of the Husk swords and would not give the secret away, the request he makes is nigh impossible to fulfill. Henrold's life is proof of that much. There is chaos in every blade, and no mortal smith can actually counter it. Anamander's suggestion is that it be quenched in the sorcery of darkness, which Henrold also takes oddly because he once made Mother Scepter, but he hardly understands her power. Actually, Henrold scantily understands most wielders of power. Power implies that one who wields it lives in fear, but also that the devoid of it also live in fear. And so we conclude that power is a means to dispel said fear. That, unfortunately, does not last, and so Henrold concludes that power is both meaningless and delusional. Kelaros counters with an example from the wars. The Forulcan wielded power and sought to subjugate or destroy the Tiste. There's nothing delusional about that. Henrold, perhaps rather optimistically, claims that no Tiste would kneel in slavery, and if true power requires that the Forulcan killed every Tiste in Coeur Galein, is that not wholly delusional?
Yeah.
Kelaros does not answer. Instead, he changes the subject, but Henrold does not relent, and Amanda wishes a sword with which to drink the blood of darkness. Sorcery which Henrold both does not understand and cannot in good faith countenance. He can also not deny Anamander, so he makes a simple request of Kelaros. When, not if, the blade is to be sanctified, he wishes to be there, to witness and to know the nature of Mother Duck's power. If indeed she actually uses, blood sorcery, he will know. Alas, yeah.
No, I just said blood. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. I was just prompting.
Alas, yeah. If Mother Dark, however, dwells in darkness, and so it is very possible that Henrold may see nothing.
And he says, "Now I understand the
He says
nature
that now,
of her power."
nature of her power,
Yeah.
symbolism.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow,
Not doing
yeah.
it.
Kelaros is somewhat unbalanced by the conversation and perhaps slightly wasted. He walks off into the main hall to meet his newfound companion, Galar Barras. The main hall's a mess. There's some sort of ceremony ongoing, but Kelaros recognizes pretty much nobody. Nobody,
that was
including Taurus Redone. Yeah.
Sorry, that was an unintended pun, isn't it? About the mess. It was a mess, which was a mess. Go on. It's okay. It's a mess where people are sitting and eating because all the soldiers have arrived, and it's also a mess because people have just, they're drinking and making a mess. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I'm so sorry.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I get
go
no,
on.
yeah. So yeah,
So Galar Barras
he recognizes nobody, which includes Taurus Redone, which is the commander of the Husk Legion. Taurus, as is common for the woman, is getting blind drunk. Kelaros finds Galar being miserable as he's unable to stomach alcohol, and his one-time lover is about 20 paces that way, guzzling away. And the two discuss Kelaros' meeting with Henrold. Turns out that something, which Galar names the loss of iron, affects Henrold, which probably is something akin to heavy metal poisoning. We're not sure which way.
It's dementia. It's some sort of dementia, hopefully. But I don't know if you're going to mention that, but what I found very interesting was that when Kelaros says something like, no, but he seems very, very sharp-witted, that, when matters of serious discussions happen, that he immediately seems to perk up, and he says, no, that is his defense. That's the way he's countering this dementia, because he's trying his best to keep himself sharp and not lose his wits completely or something. That was very interesting to see. No? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, as you said, his equity is not in doubt to others, but Henrold does seem to be losing himself, and so he fights in the only way he can. He sharpens his wit, and he employs poetic language. So, Galar assures Galar that the Lord's condition won't affect an Amander, and even makes light of the situation by pointing out that an Amander would probably nod thoughtfully and concur with Henral's assertions from childhood, because of course he would.
Yeah.
Following this, Galar gets further blind drunk and wanders off, leaving Galar to face his once beloved alone. Thoris cuts straight to the chase. Galar is, alas, in no mood for such directness because he's not drunk. Thoris has come from the south border, while her husband, who is Count Hussein, son of Henrold, has taken up a post in Glimmer Fate, overlooking the wardens, leaving Galar Barris, a man of the plains, locked up in the citadel. He chafes, because of course he does, but Thoris seeks to reassure him. She fails and resorts to the classic: the carnal desires of his flesh could have been sated by their priestesses in the citadel, and in so doing, she misses the whole fucking point, or so it seems to Galar. Both Galat and Galar are being celibate, refusing to take women to their beds in the absence of love. Thoris is, alas, not such a woman. She pours herself yet more around, and Galar realizes that he won't be spending the night alone.
You missed the best part.
Did
She
I?
tells about Khaled Hussein. She says something like, do you know what it feels like to walk in the trenches all your life? Does it come up later, or is it? I think that was in this scene. Because she thinks that
Tell me?
Khaled Hussein is so awesome in every way that she feels inferior to him, and that she's so sure of his loyalty, and that's what pushes her to do these things. And I found it very very interesting. It was nicely written. Do you know how it feels like
Right.
to? Yeah, that bit. Yeah, sorry. Go on.
Yeah.
That's
No,
just
no,
interesting.
yeah. So, scene 2 actually has my boys in Nerd Sore.
Yeah.
So we're joined by Karas Palanis, who is, as usual, for the series, thinking about his days past, how since the Cirque and Ral have left, he has actually come close to enjoying his stay here. Alas, that is not to last, because this is Karaspala, and my man is a sociopath. So, yeah. Yurisander's portrait has buried itself in his mind, yes?
This chapter is full of your boys. All your boys are in this chapter, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, this is not the last, because Karaspala is a bit of a sociopath, and Yurisander's portrait has actually buried itself in his mind. In its brazenly political outlook, it's far too obvious motivation beneath it. And it galls him because that reflects poorly back on him. Especially since Karaspala often finds himself disagreeing with the motivations underlying this piece. To him, painting and art is warfare, and of course, the only person who would agree with such notions is Galan.
Do you think this
Anyway.
is a bit outside, bit meta, where the poet, the painter, he knows what is expected. He knows what will make him successful, but he chafes at it, isn't it? He would rather paint Urisander as what he sees instead of making him a man who can prevent civil war. That's coming up, right? If
Yeah.
someone can prevent civil war, it's him. That I don't know,
Yeah,
because at some point you're going to choose commercial success versus artistic sensibilities, isn't it? That's what Karaspala is doing. Yeah. So,
We'll talk about that later. Anyway,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
Yurisander's portrait was filled with Karaspala's wounds and inner conflict, but that was only for him to see. He had learned long ago how to hide his hurts, and he knew that an eye pleased is an eye seduced, and Yurisander was well pleased. Just as he was unable to discern the meaning beneath the surface, so too was everyone else. Nobody, save for Karaspala and maybe Galan, could see the truth underlying the portrait. So, Karaspala had painted a man worthy of being Mother Nurk's husband. A man of strength, a man of stern regard, of iron will and unbreakable might. Nobody would see the underside of such things. The cruelty, the lack of empathy, the unreasonable expectations heaped upon his followers. Nobody would understand, not even Galan. Nobody would know that this man, Vathar Sander, as portrayed by Karaspalanis, terrified the artist to the core. Yikes, dude. There's a lot to say on this. I think I'll save it for later. Do you have anything to add?
Not particularly. No. We'll keep going.
Yeah, sure. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No. This is fine. This is fine. Yeah.
So, to Karaspala, there is no God but beauty, and no words with which to worship it but love, and that does not but torment them endlessly. Your Sagander snaps him out from his trance and invites him to dinner. Karaspala, still absorbed in his thoughts, almost believes that the man's portrait is speaking instead. The commander is well pleased indeed, but something is off. Karaspala mentions a bit offhandedly that his portrait can fall into wherever he may reside, and that rubs off badly on him. To amend this, the artist lets your Sagander know that he has turned down hundreds of commissions, but accepted this on the basis that he, and he alone, is capable of painting a man that is able to avert civil war. What Mora just brought up, right? Your Sagander really doesn't like that, and it bears fruit to look into your Sagander's reasoning. He doesn't want to be Mother Nurk's husband. He doesn't want to leave Nerd Soren. Virtually none of what the portrait portrays is in accordance to his will, pun intended. Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't get that. No, it doesn't matter.
The portrait portrays. Yeah, never mind.
Oh, good. Good one. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, according to your Sagander, if the nobility so resents Draconus, and they do, they ought to challenge on their darker self, which he did. Alas, they won't, because they're cowards. Says Karaspala, not me, I promise. The conversation shifts to the latter, to Karaspala, who does not always paint what he sees, but what he fears, and that reflects just as much of himself as of the subject of the painting, upon said painting. Unlike other lesser artists, Karaspala's failings are not so easily discerned by the layman's eyes, and that, your Sagander says, will fail to be captured by the artists in Draconus. The two thus depart the scene, as Karaspala has a wedding to attend to, and the conversation has grown perhaps more than a little fraught. Thoughts?
Or maybe he was just reminded of Anestia, and
Yeah.
that's all. Yeah.
Speaking of, the next scene is in the hills of your day's ride from House Ennis, with Krill Durav, who is hunting Korakala. He has found one, slain, probably decades ago by now, its skull being mounted as a trophy to commemorate the kill, and that has him thinking. Shocker, I know. Killing and hunting has become a rite of passage for the Tiste, a civilization that has long past grown the need for food, to hunt for food, rather. No, they're not such advanced that they have outgrown the need for food, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've long past grown the need to hunt for food, but they still do it. And
Sport.
to Krill, that is pathetic in a way, this blatant disrespect to nature. Is it practice for war, this incessant hunting of animals to extinction? He has had weapon training, another necessary rite of passage among the Tiste, and he thinks to himself, how sad is that?
Yeah.
So his thoughts were once more interrupted by a passing troop of Legion soldiers, riding at a walking pace, escorting hostages. By Krill's calculations, I'll get to that, one sec. By Krill's calculations, they shouldn't be here, because he's on the other side of the river, in a season when the fording of said river is dangerous, and there really shouldn't be any soldiers here. The only outpost nearby is Setta's Hold, which is really, really north. So, what are these people doing here? He identifies himself, and the captain of the troop seems to be aware of Krill's position. He is a hostage to House Ennis. He is fleeing from a wedding of a woman who known all his life. And the captain identifies himself as Captain Skara Banderas. He is journeying to collect the Jellic hostages, which he has done, and to attend the ceremony of Anisia's wedding. He requests that Krill escort them back, and I'm going to pause here and note that in the prologue of Midnight Tides, we learn, sort of, that Skara is purportedly the cause of Andrew's grief. Just putting that out there. Just in case of them, yeah.
You know what? We should just discard the entire Book of the Fallen.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying this in case it becomes important.
No, it doesn't matter. Skara Banderas here he's one of my favorites. So, especially with this
So-
first joke he does.
Yeah, so Skara in this scene seems to be shockingly commiserating. He understands Krill's predicament, and he elects not to speak of it any further out of a measure of respect, and is probably the first and only person to make Krill feel welcome in his company, because he is a Durav after all, and where else would he find company but in the troop of soldiers? To Krill's inquiry, Skara responds that the 25 whelps, soul-taken hounds, one and all, he's bringing to the Tiste may well come back to bite them. They
Yeah.
exchange looks, and our Tiste captain laughs at his own dad joke.
As he should. Yeah.
So Skara was done dirty. Justice for Skara. But yeah, well, yeah. So back at Enna's house, Enesdia is mad that Krill had the audacity to leave. She blames Jane for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this
After
is
all,
very good. I'm just happy we're
Yeah.
at this scene.
It is her father's responsibility to make sure propriety is observed in regards to the hostage, and she's irrationally angry. Okay, maybe not irrationally, but we're going to leave that aside for now. Jane expected this and reasons that Krill has left for a hopeless quest because his time in this home is almost over, and it's about time he actually got a taste of the outside world. A world in flux is frightening and bewildering, and while it may feel certain beneath Anestia's feet, it is shaking violently beneath Krill's. His family has grown around him, and most of them, being soldiers, have died in the wars. His only surviving relative at about the same age is Spinnock, who is a warden, and that is not quite the fate that Anestia has in mind for young Krill. Jane more or less lies through his teeth about wishing to be rid of both of her and Krill. Anestia seems to actually pick up on this, but elects not to give it much thought, and they have sort of a father-daughter banter thing. Like the guy's laughing, or like smiling ear to ear, and his daughter's like, "Okay, fine. I'm not gonna think about you anymore. Leave me alone." Like that.
It's very sweet. It's just very sweet, that whole thing.
Yeah. There is a metaphor here about fruit and being stained, but I'm not the one to decode it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no, I don't want to. You can just leave it alone for now.
Okay, sure. So yeah, Anestia then concludes that Andor's influence in Citadel can get Krill a cozy posting, because nepotism never truly goes away, does it?
And the Tiste have a whole history of threesomes, so that's
God.
sorry.
Okay,
It's
I
not
didn't.
my fault. This is what the Tiste society has become.
It's not where I saw that was going. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So we're off to Bar de Lac and back to Orphandel, who is leaving. He wonders on the loss of a friend, a 10-year-old stable boy named Renek, who has now grown relatively distant to Orphandel and can figure out no reason or way to approach the boy. He contemplates that nobody would miss him should he one day disappear. Yikes. And then imagines himself relatively older, at about Renek's age, then his mother's age, then his grandmother's age, and concludes that he'd be fairly similar to all of them. Yikes.
Yeah. Orphandel
So,
could
the
just
troop
have
with
been
which...
named Yikes.
Yeah. So, the troop with which Orphandel is to ride arrives, and Rennek, despite the fact that Neris has taken care of the arrangements, steps up to help Orphandel mount and give directions to the troop. They have a fraught farewell, and Orphandel rides off. So it turns out Rennek has turned hostile because of Neris' implicit threats. He is virtually the only person among his family capable of working, and if he were to disobey Neris, his family would no doubt starve. Despite this, Rennek laments his cowardice for not being there for Orphandel, but rationalizes it, cognizant of the lie that he's telling himself despite his age, in that it'll make the farewell harder for Orphandel. Yikes. Yeah. Yeah. I think everyone knows that has watched the last episode knows my thoughts and feelings on Nurse Tricorlat. But yeah. Yikes.
Right.
So, Orphantel's mare is on its last legs, both literally and figuratively. The boy nonetheless decides that his mare was once the trusty steed of a hero of the Tiste, and that his rider had died from betrayal, because, of course. And his steed now longs for death so it can join its rider, and so on. You get the picture by now, and you can probably predict what happens to Orphantel's boundless idealism in Coeur d'Alene. Yikes.
Yikes.
So,
Right.
the troop's captain is a man named Hurray, a caravan captain, that advises Orphantel to keep close with a man named Grip, because bad people do bad things to kids. Yikes, dude, he's 5. Like, at least sugarcoat it a bit next time.
I mean, it's better to say such things to a 5-year-old than, you get the message across. It's fine. It's fine if you ask me.
Well, Harald's on his last trip, and I'm not gonna say anything, but
Yeah.
Anyway, Harald was an old soldier from a generation of mostly soldiers. And when Orphantel introduces himself, his name ruffles a few feathers among the troop. So apparently his name is from the monk language, the Sheikh, and means something along the lines of unexpected. Though, for those not as well versed in the Sheikh language, it could very well translate to unwanted. One sec.
It's
No,
okay.
that's entirely
Yeah,
accidental.
it's
Yeah.
fine.
So I just hit enter and Word scrolled up like 5 pages, and that's anyway.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, Orphantel is on his way to Draconus, and his name means unwanted / unexpected. Just put 2 and 2 together. Say it with my kids. Yikes. So somebody put 2 and 2 together, a man named Narad, and in spite of Harald's warnings, continues to mock Orphantel. At which point, Harald goes like ballistic on the guy, and virtually leaves him to die at the side of the road. Narad's face is all busted up, and so he makes for the perfect villain in Orphantel's hero's tales. The face of the betrayer, the cruel smile, unable to disguise his shirts. Grip basically tells Orphantel something along the lines of, "He had it coming, let's go," and he makes the boy he takes the boy to strike up a tent.
Yeah.
And because we're not done with the yikes POVs yet, we're over in Dracon's Hold with Ibis and Sandalaf. So-
yeah.
Sand's escort has just reached Dracon's Hold, and Ibis makes the necessary introductions. So the Master at Arms has rightly concluded that Sand is here through no choice of her own, and many will look down upon this assignment as a breach of propriety. But Ibis is a soldier, and to put it bluntly, he doesn't give a shit.
He's a nice person, basically.
He is a soldier and a nice person, so yeah. He makes it rather abundantly clear a bit later, but also makes it very clear now that Sand is essentially the mistress of the house in Draconus' absence, and she, as well as he, expects that she is treated as such. In the meantime, we get some backstory in Draconus. He was a wealthy cousin of Shrella,
Yeah.
Shrella Dragons,
Right.
and his name is You get the point, Lee. Come on, nobody believes this shit, but and apparently he fought with distinction during the wars, enough to earn Mother Dark's regard. So Hilith, which is the head of the house servants, is rather furious with Ibis for according Sandalath the most basic of courtesies and respect. Because how dare he?
My lady or something. And she says, you can't give her titles. What? Why? What
Ties
are
are
the
great.
symbolism there?
No, not simple. Just like ties are great people. Anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, as aforementioned, however, Ibis is a soldier through and through and has absolutely no time for this shit. So if Hilith seeks to bully Sandalath, good luck.
Yeah.
You're not
Fair.
gonna get through Ibis.
Yeah.
And so yeah, tough shit, and doubly so tough shit because Sandalath has done this before. She has seen women like Hilith before, and she has also seen women like the maids under Hilith before. and now she's an adult, and she's not ready to take this crap anymore. And she takes perhaps more than a little joy in the power her newfound position extends over Hilith. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure how to take this scene.
Can I tell you? Because it seemed so
Sure.
odd to me when I read it. And then you know what makes perfect sense? It's just this casteism, classism system. She has one way of dealing with somebody like Ivis, who would be her protector, who would be sort of above her because he holds some power. Whereas she is above this lady, isn't it? The housekeeper. She can command the housekeeper. And the way she treats the people who she considers lower than her is this. This is the way. It just makes perfect sense if you think how ingrained it is in their society. This is how they treat people.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it took me a while because it just doesn't make sense with the rest of her character, isn't it? With Sandaleth.
So, to conclude the chapter, it ends rather poetically. So, we start off with Henrald's assertion that one day he'll be a child again, right?
Yeah.
Here we end with Sandaleth feeling like a child again, being reborn in you as a child.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Nice. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the chapter.
Yes.
There's quite a few things to say about it in general, particularly about the characters I actually care for. Obviously, Orphantal's story parallels Arathan somewhat.
I mean,
There's some parallel to be seen there.
Yeah.
There's a lot to say about Urisander and his relation with Mother Dark and all of that, but I didn't. I said this in the summary, and I'll repeat it here. I do not know how to take in Sandaleth's scenes here. Mora gave a pretty decent explanation.
But you're not convinced.
I'm inclined to agree in lack of... No, I mean, it's not very kind, but it also seems plausible and realistic enough that she would do that.
You know what, if I'm being honest, this is the way things happen here. It's like something I see every day. At work I'm treated differently than say the housekeeper or something. This is the way it is. There's no equality. When there is no equality in society, everyone behaves this way. Yeah, I might cut this out. I don't know.
Oh yeah, okay.
I mean, if you look at it through this sense, because again and again, this is what we see, right? The society is exactly like that. And also, can I just tell you about the Sandaleth scene? This type of intimidating housekeeper introducing a young woman into the house and all this. This is such a staple in these old novels. Like Rebecca is the one I read recently. I will not say the author's name. I can't say the author's name, but that's a standard thing where the housekeeper has all the power and she introduces the new wife into the house, takes her around and things like that. So it is like an inversion of that scene because this young woman is not allowing her to intimidate her, right? She gives it back. She says, "This is not the way you're going to do things. You're going to listen to me and all that." So I liked it actually, but then I don't like Sandaleth as much, so it doesn't matter if she's being like this. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So the last thing I want to mention before we cut away is Anamander mentions the secret of the Host swords. We don't know what that is in Draconus, but from what we do know in the Book of the Fallen, it's mentioned that they are quenched in Elaine blood. Now, the only Elaine we've seen is a carcass in Gleamer Fate, so I don't think that's what's going on here. So take that as you will.
Talking of Elaine blood, when Arathan thinks about Age of Gifts. Oh, is that for the discussion? Should we keep it for the discussion because we just read it? So anyway, I thought
I can't comment on it here.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm going to say.
All right. So let's wind up. Okay. So thanks for your time. You have something?
No. Yeah.
Right.
That's all.
Thank you for listening. So if you stick around, I think the next episode will be discussion of these chapters with spoilers on. Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't think we have a lot. It's going to be fairly short. So
Yeah, ideally.
hopefully we'll see you
But
there.
this is me
and,
we're talking about. So, yeah.
I mean, and hopefully we'll have chapter 7 and 8 the next time. Let's see.
Yep.
Bye.
See
Good
you
night.
around. Bye.